Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, all of you.
Good evening, Reshma. Good evening, Rupali ma'am.
Good
Good
evening, Roopali.
evening. Good evening, Reshma. Good evening, Dr. Vishal. Good evening, audience.
So I have our presenter already on the screen. It is because she's a special person. I don't want to keep her backstage. And thank you, those who are joining our GEG Ahmedabad and Pune Saturday session. These are all Google Educator groups, and we usually meet on Saturdays, most of the times on 6 or 7 o'clock, basically to provide free professional development to our audience. They might be educators, they might be principals, they might be administrators, or they might be even students if interested. So a lot of digital tool learning, lot of discussions amongst what's new in edtech, what's new in Google. And so today's session is very special. We will introduce our presenter really quick, but Dr. Varia, over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So welcome everyone for today's session, and we are glad to have Rupali ma'am with us for sharing her expertise once again with the platform GGMP. And it's lovely to learn from her. And today we're going to have some very good insights about how we're going to conduct the classrooms using technology. Especially, we're going to learn something new about her innovator project, and we are so keen and eager to learn from her. Over to you, Rupali ma'am.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Vishal. It's amazing to be on this platform because we all are part of a beautiful journey associated with Google. And being a Google certified innovator, I believe this is one place where we feel it's our home, and we've been in it for so many years, and sharing those feelings with the audience today would be altogether different experience even for me. So I'm really glad to
Absolutely.
be here.
We are very excited to listen to your innovator project. And just to let our audience know, Rupali Arora is a member of GEG Delhi NCR, and she is a Learn Captain of GEG NCR. So you must have seen her on the other channels as well. She is a Google certified trainer for a long time now, and she would be sharing with us her innovator journey and what all she is planning to do in edtech, and we would love your support. Please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. We will pass it on to Rupali ma'am, and let's begin the session.
Great. So now we begin with this session, and our beautiful audience need to be aware of actually this name that I've put up on the slide, which says Rupali's BICS framework. What exactly it is about, and what exactly is the entire essence of this framework, is what I'm going to be introducing today. So, before I actually start with the entire framework, I really want to share with you all the kind of journey that I had, worked upon in this field, wherein over the time period, initially I just started using Google tools as an economics teacher at Sanskriti school, and I had always felt that how I should actually bring change in the way I teach, or make it more exciting, make it more lively in my classes. So for that, yes, I started with Google Certified Educator Level 1 back in 2016. Then I moved on and went for level 2 in 2018. And something that really excited me was that all the new things that I'm learning as a Google certified educator, I must spread it, to all other educators. For that, something that really fascinated me was about Google certified trainer journey, which I really admired because that was something that actually helped me become even more confident in explaining it to others, the benefit and the utility of using Google Apps in education. So that journey started back in 2018, and ongoing journeys actually wanted me to go even move ahead with another way of research abilities that every person has. So yes, that was the next step in the ladder, and that was Google innovator journey, which I just accomplished in 2021. So, and right, I'm right there. I mean, sharing my experiences with you. And one of the thing which really wanted me and excited me in this journey was, how to actually bring innovation in your work. So that is something that Google actually supported us and helped us in exploring new ways in which we can actually find a problem which is existing at present, or it may not be a problem which is a global problem. It may be a very localized problem in the field of education, which we can touch upon, and how actually technology helps us in bringing solutions to the problems existing around you. So that made me actually explore more and research around me as to what exactly I can do in order to find solutions to the problems that are existing around me. So at the time when I was, writing my application for Google Innovator program, which is hashtag VIA21, one thing that actually helped me, decide about my area of research was what should I actually do within my four walls of my classroom, whether a physical classroom or the virtual four walls of my Google Classroom. What exactly can I do in order to make my classes more exciting, more fun, more encouraging, more, I would say, a kind of an atmosphere in classroom where kids would come and they would feel joy, when I actually experience my classes and when they attend my classes. So that made me think, okay, let me bring in something which should solve the problem, not just in my classroom, but in any teacher's classroom, whether in India or globally or wherever you feel you're an educator and you really want to make your classes more exciting. And for that, one aspect that I really liked about was, let me foster creativity among my students. Let me, make my students more open minded, more challenging to solve any problem that is coming in front of them. So for that, this is a short video that I would like you all to watch and see what is basically the problem at hand that I'm trying to solve through my Google Innovator application. So have a look.
Sorry, Rupali, before you start the video, your screen is half visible. Is it possible to just stretch it a bit so that we can watch the whole video?
Is
That
it
is
fine now?
amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's begin. Hi everyone, I'm Roopali Arora, Senior Economics Teacher at Sanskriti School, New Delhi, India. I have been a Google certified trainer since 2018 and Learn Captain GEG Delhi NCR, India. In my 15 years of experience at Sanskriti School, I have come across different kinds of students every year, each one of them possessing a unique mind of their own. Realistically, it is only today's creative and talented students who will be tomorrow's political leaders, medical researchers, innovative engineers, and business entrepreneurs.
Creativity is expressing myself and my thoughts in ways that I haven't done it throughout the whole schooling process.
Indeed, this essential talent needs to be valued, identified, and cultivated. As an educator, it is an everyday challenge for me to devise innovative methods of teaching in my classroom so that creativity can be fostered effectively in my students. How might we as educators foster creativity amongst our students so that they become creators rather than consumers of information?
To me, creativity is liberation.
Tomorrow's promise is in today's schools, and it must not be ignored. So you would actually relate with me, every student sitting in front of you are having some level of creativity within them, and it's up to the educator who can actually take that extra effort to hone the skills and actually explore new ways of coming up new ways of creativity in classrooms so that these students in front of you become even more confident when they go and apply to their real life job opportunities later, and they can actually be more successful in whatever job they take up. So that's the entire viewpoint, and I believe the audience is with me, and I believe Reshma and Mr. Vishal that the theme is set, and we can begin with the BICS framework.
Absolutely, Rupali. It was a total insight to just listen to your video. And I love how even students explained what creativity means to them. So we are excited. We are really excited to know
Absolutely.
what your framework is and how all teachers can adapt to their learning and teaching.
Amazing. So here we go. Before we start the
Dr.
framework,
Sorry, Dr. Waria, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to quote one quote from Sir Ken Robinson that creativity is as important in education as oxygen for life. So I think this is
wow.
the right ingredient you have taken up, and it is much
Oh,
essential. We need the students to be creators rather than consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So all the best
Yeah,
for this,
and
and yeah, we're
yeah.
going to learn more.
Mhm.
that's beautiful way of putting it up, Mr. Vishal, because this is something that we feel that yeah, in creativity would be something that other people would have and I may not possess, but that's not true. It's something that everyone possesses.
Mhm.
Everybody has the ability to create new things if you just use your potential, if you just use your skill or imagination. And in fact, if you see around, even a small child around you, if you ask that child to just draw something which he or she is observing around him or her, then you can see that something or the other he or she would draw on the paper, and that would be entirely his or her own creativity. And
Creation. Yes.
we must appreciate the effort and the uniqueness of the drawing of that child. And you would see, no matter what instruction a teacher is giving, every child would come up with his or her own unique way of thought process. And that is the beauty of creativity.
We're all eager
Absolutely.
to learn today.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
One thing that needs to be in actually ponder about is creativity doesn't just happen on its own. Creativity is something that needs a suitable seed for it. It's something that every teacher needs to explore. Every teacher needs to actually give that kind of a nudge to all his or her students all the time, so that students are motivated and students are guided to actually move in the right direction so that creativity can be fostered. So it's not something that just happen on its own. So, for that, we need to now come up to a really important question that says how to make the classroom the perfect environment for fostering creativity. This is something that every educator needs to emphasize on, because unless you do not give that environment to the students, students themselves would be either, lackadaisical, or they could be either uninformed, or they could be really unaware about the scope and the potential of being creative. So, for that, yes, every educator needs to answer this question and decide how to make the classroom the perfect environment for fostering creativity. For that, yes, the answer to that question is Rupali's BICS framework. Yes, today I'm going to be showcasing all the steps that are needed for any educator to go step by step and use BICS framework. And I'm going to be explaining what B stands for, what I stands for, what C stands for, and finally what S stands for. And actually, I'll take you to that journey which every educator knowingly or unknowingly doing it, but not realizing that yes, there is a lot of potential behind the kind of vision that you can have if you take as per the sequence that it should be put in. So if you really want to foster creativity among your students, Rupali's BICS framework is what is the solution. So if you really get convinced at the end of the session today, I really hope that all you educators who are beautifully listening to me at the moment would actually try to enforce it and use it and execute it in their classrooms and see the magic that can actually happen in front of you with the kind of beautiful, unique minds that you all are interacting with on a daily basis. So let's begin. First and foremost, I start with the alphabet B, which means that when you enter your Google Classroom or when you enter into your physical classroom or even hybrid atmosphere that you're into in the current world, one thing that you really need to start your lesson with is brainstorming. Instead of just starting your lesson coming up with really difficult concepts and just using your traditional approach of talk chalk and talk, or even the traditional ways of opening up a textbook and starting with the heavy concepts in front of the students, would be sometimes really really overwhelming for children. So what's important is that we need to first create an environment in which we set the pace, and we have to feel the level of previous knowledge that our children have. And you would be surprised that before even starting your lesson, if you start working on some kind of brainstorming session, then it can actually create a lot of interesting things around you in your classroom that would make you think that yes, even before even I start teaching, I can actually learn a lot. And that could be done through brainstorming. So we'll get into the nuances of brainstorming in the coming slides, but let's just go on to the next alphabet, which is I. Yes, I, as an educator, I need to be more innovative. I need to be more creative myself. I need to be more aware about the kind of things that are around me that can actually make a huge difference in my teaching strategies. And that is where I need to really research and explore. I need to see myself. I, as an educator, also need to be a forever learner. And for that, I need to learn new innovative methods of teaching on a daily basis, and which can actually create a lot of difference in the way I create the atmosphere for my students. What kind of innovations I must bring in? How can I actually use technology for bringing that innovation? That is what we're going to be learning in the coming slides. Coming on to the next alphabet, which is C, which means yes, every student around you, do not underestimate their potential. It's like don't even think or have any kind of a judgment beforehand that I'm a super hero standing in front of all my kids and you just listen to me. No, that's not the way how the actual learning takes place. It's a mutual exchange of ideas and thoughts. And if you start challenging your students, you would realize the kind of work that they showcase in front of you as an educator, that could be a really learning experience for yourself. So start creating an environment or start creating a kind of a challenge or a project in front of the students, which you feel that students would really need to come out of their comfort zones, and they would really amaze you with the kind of work that they can do or deliver in front of you. So start doing that. Don't think they can't. They can. In some or the other level of capability, they would definitely be willing to, do and accept your challenge if you are really, really giving them the right direction for the work that you are expecting from them. And the last alphabet is S, which means feel proud of the work that your students have done. As an educator, don't just limit to yourself or the students who are sitting in front of you who are listening to the creative work done by the students. Just go beyond your four walls of classroom and spread the word, spread it to other sections, spread it to the authorities, spread it to all the platforms where you are an important part of. Like at the moment, yes, I'm going to be showcasing a lot of my students' creative work, and that would really amaze you. And that is what every educator must do, because one person's expert work needs to be shared with others, because others, whether they are in that capacity to do it or not, but they would be highly inspired by the work that their peer have done. And that would be an amazing magical impact that a student can have on everybody around him. So that's the framework. And I believe if you get into the nuances of each and every step of this BICS framework, you would realize that each and every step has a lot of research and a lot of exploration that every educator needs to do. And over your entire teaching and learning journey, if you just sit back and reflect, you would realize that yes, I've been doing that some way. I mean, I've been conducting a lot of brainstorming sessions in my classes. Yes, I have been doing a lot of innovation. And have I put that in the right sequence? Have I challenged my kids? Have I actually, shown it to the world and spread the word of the entire work that my students have done? So keep pondering and then try to execute that in your life and see the magic. So starting with first alphabet, which is brainstorming, the way I see what brainstorming would mean to me would be, if you're entering into your classroom, start with collaboration. That is one important life skill that every child needs to learn. You think of a task that you are giving it to your children and put them in some kind of teams. And when you define a team, you also need to be very specific in defining the roles that every member of the team has to execute. Don't work kind of a very very uh, vague environment. Keep it very specific, keep it very clear, because the way you would give the instruction would actually create a lot of difference in the environment. Once you come up, you give some kind of a collaborative task. It could be that you're using whole lot of Google apps for that, because the very feature of Google app is that you can have that share button on a Google Doc or a Google Slide or Google Sheet, or in that matter, Google Drawings. So there's so many apps that are being given by Google, where if you use that Google, element of sharing and collaboration, that can actually create a lot of difference. So just start the class by asking each and every student as to what exactly they know of the concept that you're trying to introduce. So instead of teaching it directly, first brainstorm and feel, feel the pace of and the sentiment of the students in front of you, and see where exactly their previous knowledge is. And for that moment the entire task is completed. Yes, that is something that really works in our classes. Keep your some kind of an incentive system wherein you can reward each and every student, and that student who feels that need or some kind of a push would also start working in the real sense. So smartly create groups and execute your brainstorming session. At the end of the brainstorming session, you would see that if I'm using these kinds of tools, which you can see on the screen, first one is Google Jamboard or Google Slide. The third one is Google Doc or even Pear Deck, which actually helps you to quickly allow students to come up on the Pear Deck and give their opinion, and they also can quickly show what is their perspective. One of the notions that we have realized over the last entire 1.5 years of pandemic is that students, sometimes when they are behind the DPs, they are not interacting, they're not you know um, giving their best when they are in your Google Meet. So the best thing is, if you really want to see whether the child at the other end is involved and listening to you, in that scenario, if you bring in this brainstorming activity using a Google Jamboard or a Google Doc, simply you would see within a minute everybody would be coming up with their thoughts and opinions, and you would start reading each and everyone's thought, and then based on that you can interact and talk about the concept that you want to introduce. That would actually bring some kind of momentum right in the beginning, that yes, everybody is interested, everybody is willing to contribute, and that is something that you can use in your hybrid atmosphere, or if you're in the physical classroom atmosphere as well. Looking at the facial expressions and the gestures of the students, try to incorporate the notion of collaboration in your brainstorming session, and you would see that your students would really amaze you with the kind of work that they can do right even beginning, even if you haven't even introduced the topic, but you would see that children would amaze you a lot. So, for brainstorming, the example that I want to show you is a Google Jamboard that my students have created. And you can see that it's been divided in such a manner that the students are up there putting their names on the frame, one of the frames, and they are trying to build up a story. So, if I ask them what is their opinion of credit creation, this is how they could beautifully showcase in front of me. And within few minutes, you would see that a lot of students are coming up with their storyboards on Google Jamboard, and the brainstorming session can be even more meaningful with the kind of e-resources that students have made. So and interesting element is, when we as teachers introduce credit creation, we would get into the technical elements of it and make it more complex, but when they are bringing their notion, what they are bringing in some fun element of bringing a person who is Harshit Mehta, you walking into SBI, and then you would see there is another Junjunwala coming in, and how the entire credit is being created beautifully, moving from one person to another, moving from one bank to another, and in a way, how in the end, you would see that the notion of donations that have actually, can be created out of this entire credit uh, you know system can actually amaze you with the kind of linkages that students would bring in because of the environment that they have got through this brainstorming session. So in a way, it would actually ease your teaching when you are bringing in your innovations while explaining the concept. So once that's done and you have brought in a lot of momentum in your classroom, the next step is to now bring in your innovation. One very important element that I have put in this framework is A, at step B, you are bringing some kind of rewards and incentive system so that the students are excited. On the second step, when I bring in innovation in my teaching and learning process, my focus is not just on my innovation, but the very purpose of my innovation is that students need to feel joy, right? My focus over here would be completely on joy. That at the end of my lesson, each and every student should feel that fun and engagement and joy in their eyes, so that they can actually feel that we haven't even just learned the difficult concept, we've actually learned it in a more fun and engaging manner. So for that, what kind of innovations can you bring in your classroom? What can be done is, and what like my experience has been, this is just one of the examples, but yes, I'm sure that audience who's listening to me would be using a lot of innovations in their day-to-day teaching and learning process. And one of the examples that I would like to show you is mashing up the Google apps which are there in front of you. So let me just use exciting abilities of a Google Jamboard in my teaching. Along with that, let me use Google Sites. So you would be wondering, how can I actually mash up these two? And so for that, this is just a showcase of how Lessons can be introduced using some kind of fun and excitement in the air, and yet you are delivering important concepts in class with full seriousness, and that is through Google Site and Google Jamboard. On the left hand side of your screen, what you see is one kind of a resource material. So, as a teacher, since I've taught for so many years, now I think every teacher who has taught for so many years would have got some kind of resources, some kind of notes, some kind of material which you would really like to share with your students. So, why not take that extra effort of collating all the resources that you are using as an educator and develop a Google site on it? So, again, we started thinking on that direction and we built up a Google site using all the chapters that we could think of in the current Indian economics book. And the NCRT textbooks were then converted digitally in terms of Google sites. And yes, of course, the textbook is also being complemented with a lot of other additional material in terms of YouTube videos or some kind of interesting assessment Google forms, or even some kind of original videos that you would like to showcase along with the step by step material that you want to share with your students. So that's one thing, your innovative piece of work. And how do I make it more interactive in my classroom? So for that, I used Google Jamboard. So on the right hand side, what you see is the work which is done by the students. Your students, if given a textual representation of a concept, and if they are asked to go and explore on the web how you can actually convert this textual information into a visual graphic, and you would be amazed that your students can actually convert a text into pictures very effectively. So again, bringing some kind of a group work into action, and people can read the content which is given to them by the teacher, and they can visually convert that into some interesting pictures which are available on the web. And as and when you are teaching your students using Google site, alongside you can pictorially refer to those pictures which are put by the students and make your lesson more engaging, more interactive, more. And it's because students themselves have found these pictures on the web, they are more excited and they have fun in the learning these concepts, which I feel in a traditional setup would be little monotonous in that scenario. Then, moving on to the next step after you have taught your students, as I said, students love challenges, and if you really, as an educator, if you give them some kind of challenge, and if you give them a real life situation where they can actually solve a problem, because as I said in the video, that you really want your students to be in that position that in future when they become at some kind of eminent person, when they start holding positions where decision making is done, at that time they should have the skill of solving real life problems. So for that, this is the starting point right in early years, where you are, you call them as formative years. You start giving them real life problems and let them solve those problems by you know overcoming the kind of challenges which are coming in their way. And we also want them to be little alert on thinking that this is not what you are restricting yourself when you're learning something in the textbook. Textbook is the base, but beyond that you need to really explore, think out of the box, go and research on the web, and yes, under the guidance of the teacher, you actually go and see and go beyond your comfort zone and come up with something which can be really, really fruitful, not just for you or your classmates or your, fellow students who are around you, but in fact everybody, which is not just in your school but even globally. They can also be inspired by the kind of work that you have done. But yes, that kind of support, that kind of nudge is required from the educator, and students would really do a great job. So for that, this is what I have given it to my students, which is just one example for you to give it to your students as well. Slides Mania is giving you a lot of interesting templates on Google Slides. And if you really want to make your Google Slides not just a presentation tool, and if you really want to bring gamification into the environment, then you can actually mash up, as I said, mashing of Google Apps is something that I really love doing. So for that, you can use Google Slides, use the Slides Mania gaming template, use Google Docs for bringing in collaboration, and convert the entire textual conversation into some kind of data using Google Sheets, and use that data on Google Sheet on a Google slide. Now, this is something that I believe everybody should learn as an educator, that when you are bringing in collaboration on a Google Doc, students are typing, and they are typing at the same time on one document. Once they do that, they can actually think of some kind of numerical representation of their ideas. So, just for an example, in my class, I was teaching correlation. So, students started thinking of economic variables using Google Docs. Then, using Google Sheets, they started giving some kind of numerical representation of the economic variables that they had thought of. So once you have data in front of you, just with a click of a button, you can convert the data set into visuals in terms of charts. So you just insert a chart and you get interesting scatter plots. Those scatter plots can actually be put on a Google slide in this gaming template, wherein while playing Ludo, students can actually put all the questions that they can think of and play a game in the classroom using simple concepts of correlation. So it's in a way that you have brainstormed, you have taught the basics. Now you really want to challenge your students that can you create your own economic variables? Can you create your own hypothetical data? Can you create your own hypothetical charts using that data, and then come up on this Slides Mania template and create a game? So this is something that I felt was really challenging for my students, and they had come up with beautiful games, and they had actually amazed me with the kind of ease with which they use technology, even beyond the ease that we have as educators. And that's entirely a good learning experience even for me. So that's one way of bringing challenge. And the last step that I feel that every educator must emphasize on, because initially I emphasized on rewarding, then I emphasized on bringing joy, then I emphasized on coming out of the comfort zone and doing something that you haven't done before. And then finally, when you've done so much, let's just showcase and feel the celebration and feel the excitement and feel the kind of I would say proud feeling that an educator would have when you would display the work done by your students. So, and do that, I mean, to any extent that you can. So for that, you have to have some kind of positive thinking, and you have to have that faith that yes, your students have done in whatever capacity they have done, just showcase it to the world and feel proud about it. And you would see that some or the other person sitting in the corner would get inspired by the kind of work in whatever capacity by your students, and that would be a really happy feeling for you as an educator. So for that, what could be the possible ways in which you can showcase your students' work. Technology has made this task so easier for us. Use your Google site, use blogs, use Padlet, where you can actually receive the submissions of the work done by your students and then explore it and share it with the world on platforms like this. And use Wakelet. Wakelet has actually come up in a lot of popularity these days, because with Wakelet you can not just share your work with others, you can also get inspired by the work done by others as per the need that you want to see. And Wakelet actually amazes you with the kind of work people have done and get inspiration from. And why not you also add on in the Wakelet in the public mode and inspire many other people around you. So these are few examples again that you can use for showcasing your students' work. So let me use GEG Pune and Ahmedabad platform for showcasing the work which is being done by my students using some interesting apps. So one of the ways recently my students have worked upon is through storytelling. So this is one interesting challenge that you can give to your students. Pick up Pixton app and create interesting storyboards, like the one that you can see at the moment here is being created by my students. And if you look at this Pixton storyboard, there are 4 characters that you can see over here. So once you start with the session and you define roles of the students in a group, in fact, once this entire Pixton storyboard is created, you can ask your students in Google Meet or in your physical classroom to role play. It's like these dialogues which are being created by your students. They can actually, the way they had introduced this in front of me was that all the 4 members of the group were these 4 characters, and moment their dialogue used to come, they used to voice it, and we all could hear and feel this entire Pixton storyboard and understand the complex concepts of disguised employment. So that's another way of executing and showcasing the work done by your students. And of course, this is another creative work done by my students, wherein they have created flippity timeline, because economics is a subject which is rich with the timelines and the trends in the variable over the time period. So for that, a timeline is being made by my students. So I can show you that flippity timeline out here, and you can see using simple Google Sheets and using flippity over there, my students had created this timeline for all the kinds of 5-year plans that have existed right from the first 5-year plan. So, including pictures, including the goals which have been there in that particular 5-year plan, emphasizing on the 4 goals out here in different colors. So, I was amazed that, how children had used different color combinations to highlight the different kind of a goal. So that was not as per my expectations, but students had gone beyond my expectations, and they had brought in and created this timeline. And this is all group work. So 4 people working on one 5-year plan, and they are doing this exercise in just 40 minutes. One class is sufficient, and a group is ready with one 5-year plan. And you would be amazed with the kind of work that they do and deliver if they're given that kind of some kind of experience of, or the potential of using these apps in an appropriate manner. And over the time period, you would see that using these kinds of technical skills, which I believe are life skills for any students who are actually the 21st century digital natives, they need to learn how to showcase the kind of work to the world. And Flippity is one amazing tool for that. So that's one another showcase. And of course, if we go beyond the static images, if we really want to make work even more interactive, then Canva. can really bring in a lot of potential for showcasing really good work. So interesting, I would say, mind maps or some kind of storytelling boards can be created using Canva. And this is all group work which is being done by the students, and they would really think out of the box and try to uh, pen down actually their thought process beautifully. And this e-resource can be actually used by many other students in the coming sessions as well. And one interesting showcase that I would like to show it to you is in terms of a video which is originally created by my students. So I'll show you a short glimpse of that. Have a look.
The fact of the matter is that the poorest of the poor of the rural population are still predominantly dependent on money lenders and other informal sources for principal. So even though you may be helping certain people in the scenario provided, you're not really helping the people who actually require your assistance. Does that mean that RRBs have been completely obsolete? Again, no. They have seen success and have had quite an impact on the rural scene, showing an overall positive growth over the years. But as usual, we have miles to go before we even contemplate rest.
So you can see that how your students with their own voiceover actually telling me their perspective. We listen to their voices in our classrooms on a daily basis, but do we actually make that effort to record it and create a resource which even many other batches would like to watch and get inspired from? So I believe the audience would relate with me and would actually use this BICS framework more categorically in their classes. And a big thank you to GG Pune and Ahmedabad, the team who has actually given me that opportunity to showcase my innovation. And this is the link that I really want Reshma you to give it to the audience, so that they can be part of my journey, and they can share their experiences, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, but they would be actually using this BICS framework somewhere in their life.
Perfect, Rupali. I'm sharing it right now with our audience. So I'm sharing a questionnaire that we would request you, either you're watching it live or you watch it later on our YouTube channel, to please go to the questionnaire. I'll put that in the description box also, and help Rupali to understand how you will be using your framework. What are your ideas, or have you ever used it, or any other tools or apps that you used and that would really be helpful for her innovative project?
Absolutely.
So indeed a great session, Rupali ma'am. It was a little monotonous, but we just learned to know that a lot of things can be merged together within the same framework. So what was more interesting about this session, the way you collaborated the Google applications, like the sheet, the doc, and the slides, as well as the way you collaborated the other application like Flipti is there or Pixton is there, and the students were motivated to give feedback or to do work using those applications. This is really encouraging, and this is something where we need to be very much be using these kind of tools to engage these digital natives, as you just mentioned. So I mean, it's really interesting because students nowadays, the biggest challenge now we are going to face is that bringing the students back to work using the digital tools. So the concept is that I think the schools are going to resume slowly, gradually. The education is going to resume the way it was earlier, but at the same time, there will be a change environment. The students that will be receiving now will be more technically advanced, technologically advanced. They will be more tech savvy, and we need to influence the students technologically as well as educationally in the class in front of them. So these are the tools that are going to help us. So I think your topic and your big stem is going to help all the educators. I'm pretty sure about it, and we're going to be benefited from it as well. What do you say, Reshma?
Absolutely. And just to Because Rupali just introduced such wonderful words, I just thought of creating a quick Jamboard for our audience
Wow.
to
Brilliant.
actually put their thoughts into. Because I always know when I watch a session or I listen to wonderful experts from the community, thoughts just start popping into my mind. So I really want our attendees to put those thoughts that come to their mind when they heard Rupali talking about brainstorming, innovative ideas, challenges, as well as showcasing the work. And I'm sure our audiences are doing this already. A few of them must have already started doing that in the class. So I shared a Jamboard link, and each of its slide has a quick question. So you may take that question as a thought process. There is no right or wrong answer to it. So let us see if our audience
Yeah.
clicks
So
and
let us take a 2 minute survey or rather 5 minute survey from the and let us try to explore the Jamboard and please put in your creativity. Reshma, will please keep your screen shared so that we come to know what people are doing in the Jamboard.
absolutely, I will share the screen and we'll see what. And I see a lot of people have already started uh,
Cool,
logging
cool.
into the Jamboard. So let me quickly share my screen and we'll see what the Jamboard looks like. So I see a few people have already joined the Jamboard, and there is a quick question on the first screen that what Google apps can you use to promote collaboration? So we still have 5 minutes. So please take your time. Please take your time to enter. And once you're done on the first screen, I would request you to go on to the second frame. So you automatically know how the Jamboard works. On the left-hand side, those are the tools. You can use an image. You can add a quick note. You can even add shapes if you like. And you can even add a text.
Absolutely. Innovation is something that is so important for any educator because anything that you see around you, if you have your own thought process, if you have your own way of viewing it, that would itself, make it more innovative. So it's not something that you have to imagine something which never, no one has imagined before. This is something your own perspective can also be a new innovation.
Mhm.
So I think Reshma, just take it to the first slide of the Jamboard so that we come to know what are the
Oh,
ideas here.
mhm.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we know Padlet has some restrictions, but I just saw a new update coming in Google Sheets, which says that it is going to automatically correct your syntax and formula. So try using Google Sheets, and you don't need to worry about the formulas.
And we also need to be updated with other tools because there's a lot of updations coming in the Google apps,
Mhm.
and we need to be really using these tools to at least realize or materialize those updates. So a lot of collaboration tools are being added to the existing application like Google Doc or Google Slides, even to the Sheets.
Mhm.
So once we realize that efforts, and it is worthy to know that Google is doing the upgradations for the educators
Mhm.
And look at the real time collaboration that we're witnessing right now.
perfectly.
Exactly. You just sparked collaboration in our minds. And I think this is the best way that our educators can experience how their students will be doing it in the classroom. Okay,
Beautiful.
if we can move on to the second slide. So I would request all our attendees to switch on to slide number 2, in which the question is what innovative educational ideas you would like to use in your classroom. So we always think about what if ऐसा होता, ऐसा what if I could have done this, अगर मैं ऐसा कर सकती, मुझे ये restrictive environment में नहीं काम करना है. So what are your ideas that you really want to bring into your classroom?
It could be your wish list,
Yeah.
just dream big and just jot everything down on this frame. Innovation is not easy, right? It takes
Mhm.
time.
Absolutely. Yeah, you wish you could have used Nearpod and Flipgrid and Padlet. Okay. Somebody said, ask student to take the topic, and educator would add the missing element. That's a wonderful thing to say.
Hmm. That's interesting tip.
Mhm. I always felt that I had like the whole day to teach one topic to the students, because those 1 2 hours are never enough to allow everybody to uh, give their best, I believe. Beautiful, beautiful things coming in. Students to teach other students. Mhm.
That I've seen has made huge difference in classes, because when you see your peer coming up with motivational work, then you yourself would feel that, yes, is there something that even I can contribute? Can
Mhm.
I also teach like that? So you are inspired in that manner.
Absolutely, absolutely. Peer review, I think, is becoming really, really popular amongst the students, because they always like to get a review from their age group students, and have a thought process than directly the first review from the teacher, I believe.
Absolutely.
Okay, I see wonderful ideas coming in. So we have around another 30 seconds on this slide, and then we can move on. Giving more student agency to learn and not to follow the same old method. This is a wonderful
I think
idea,
that
if that can be.
change can happen only if you work with new ways of introducing the same old thing. But we don't say that old things don't work. They do have their own importance in life. It's just that we need to give it a nice new touch, so that we can bring that kind of a collaboration between old and new ways and create magic.
Beautiful. That's absolutely true. Okay, moving on to slide number 3. So I'm saying slide, but these are called frames in
Frames.
Jamboard.
Yeah.
So we moved on to third frame, and that says, do you think our teachers and students are challenged enough in current scenario in the classroom?
Or we are just challenged with the kind of assessment that we are blocked with.
Mm-hmm.
Are we just doing rote learning and with the challenge of just sitting in an exam? Are we just
Mm-hmm.
challenged with you know summative assessment? Is that the real word, or do you sufficiently challenged in a more creative manner?
Yes, we are, but we are not actually meeting the challenge. Mhm. Beautiful. The challenge is to change the thought process. That is such a wonderful statement here.
Changing the mindsets of the people,
Mhm.
thinking and forcing people to work in the new environment, and that's the biggest challenge in its own way, because uh, being willing to accept the new ways of thinking is something that we need to work on. We should be open to new challenges. We should actually come out of our comfort zones and think big, because unless we don't come out of our comfort zones, how can we expect our students to come out of their comfort zones?
Perfectly
Absolutely.
said,
Mhm.
Roopali.
Yeah,
Perfectly said. So to change the thought process, we need to change lot many things. We need to actually basically first change the process itself, the
Mhm.
process of how we teach them, the process of how they learn, and then comes the process of how they think. Then only the thought process will change. So a lot of
Absolutely.
exercise on the
Mhm.
part of a teacher, educator.
Yes, it is. It is challenging, and I know this education system cannot just completely change by itself. It is it is the change that we would like to bring in. Like we said that just passing out with great marks do not make you a great doctor, and we really do not want to fall into a good grade doctor, but we want a skilled doctor, and that will come only with the challenges that the child faces and he overcomes it.
Absolutely. There are restrictions of time and curriculum,
Mhm.
which every educator would relate with. And I believe Google would actually help you with that, because by bringing these kinds of innovations, you would actually see the difference, that you could actually complete your curriculum on time, and you would see that students are more active in delivering the real work. And that would actually help you complete the syllabus quickly and more effectively.
Mhm. And in literature, let the child give the teacher what he or she understands from the paragraph of the text. That is such a that just brought back my memories, because when I used to, I was never a very good English student because I was more inclined towards mathematics, and that was one of the hardest subject for me because I used to think it differently than what the teacher expected, and literature, history, other things. I think they just need a lot of creative minds.
I think, Reshma, it's
Absolutely.
time to move on to the
Move on to
next.
the next one. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. The last four frame, the fourth frame is, what are the different ways you have used uh, apps or your school to showcase your students' amazing work?
Oh, that's interesting to know, because everybody would be showcasing, but we really want to know what exactly did they use for showcasing the work. That would be interesting to see. I really like very enthusiastic and participative audience, and they are actually giving us really good ideas at every
Mhm.
step.
So we'll take 1 minute on this frame. So please feel free, because I have seen a lot of educators creating beautiful videos. Let us know what apps did you use. Let us know uh, how you did a debate competition in your school. How did you put it live for everybody to see? So these 2 years taught us a lot of different things that I think
Exactly.
is
In
going to help.
fact, pandemic is like a blessing in disguise. It has
Mhm.
actually made all the educators more confident, more educative about the potential of use of technology. So that is something really a good takeaway.
Mhm. I see somebody said Facebook and WhatsApp group. Yes, we connected with a lot of educators. We got to know um, how they are doing in their school. If you have used YouTube videos, or I think I never knew how Canva works, but I just love Canva now. So it's a go-to place.
Canva is also giving us a lot of mashups between different
Mhm.
kinds of abilities, whether you want to create an infographic or you want to create posters. So the potential is immense.
Mhm.
Lovely. Twitter. That's the
Mhm.
best. Share with the world.
Mhm.
That's
And
amazing.
Rupali, I would like to say I was never on Twitter because I always thought that Twitter was something like not for a person like me. But after doing my Google Certified Educator Level 1, and when I saw that Google for Education said follow us on Twitter, that is the first time I created the account, because I learned so much just by giving the first level exam. I said I need to follow and learn more things. And after
In fact,
joining it, yeah.
Reshma, I would do share here that being on Twitter does not just mean that you are just sharing your expertise or what your thoughts and opinions are. You also get connected with the similar thinking mindset people, and you would see the potential of that connection is immense, and you get to
Mhm.
meet people who are beyond any kind of distance or time zones, and you would see that you are also facing similar problems and they are also facing similar problems in the field of education. And if we all come at a common platform where we can share our problems and give solutions, it can actually it can actually make the world a better place, because you are helping each other out in finding solutions to the problems.
Rightly said,
Absolutely.
Rupali ma'am. And Twitter, though more popularly known for microblogging, there are news. I think I've read somewhere on that also on Twitter itself, that Twitter is also trying to give more space for words. So they're going to also add. So right now, I think there are 260 characters that we can enter into a tweet, or something more than that. But just like as we prepare a post in a Facebook page or on a Facebook or on LinkedIn, we'll also be able to create posts in Twitter. So Twitter is trying to come out from the concept of microblogging.
Oh, that's wonderful. And exactly,
Amazing.
yeah, it is an amazing place. It depends upon whom you follow, and
Exactly.
wonderful educators sharing their insight. So if you happen to be on Twitter, feel free to follow myself, Dr. Vishal, Rupali, and our GEGs. And I think we are doing great on Jamboard. I'll keep the Jamboard open for another 30 minutes. Feel free to uh, log in anytime and click the link. And if you have it, just save the link and you can keep adding your thoughts. I would be sharing it with our presenter today, Rupali ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful exercise. And thank you so much, audience, for being so interactive.
And special
Thanks.
thanks to you. And before I forget, I'm putting up our GEG Ahmedabad and Pune session feedback link
Yes,
because we
exactly.
sometimes just forget. And
Indeed, thankful to Rupali ma'am for sharing her
mhm.
expertise, her innovative ideas, the way you tackle your class in particular. We could empathize ourselves that how you are actually teaching in your class and how your students are getting the benefit of your teaching basically. So that's more rewarding to learn these kind of practices. So indeed, a good session to learn about the quality education tips that you have given today. And yes, a lot to do in this area. So I think the audience is going to be benefited if they start doing something in this direction. And I'm sure you will be getting some good responses over the questions that you have already asked them to fill up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rupali, for choosing our platform to discuss about your innovative project and let the audience explore and learn from it. And we look forward to having more collaboration with you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so much.
thank you one and all for spending your time to join with us. And please stay connected. We'll be soon be coming out with another session for the next week. Till then,
Thank you.
see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.